What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Saturday Family Education and Support Group with your host, Parham. It's our first one back since taking a little hiatus and a little break from, from doing this due to scheduling conflicts, due to basketball that I was coaching, due to just sometimes needing a little break. And we're going live. I am going live, Marilyn. I'm going to be going live from now until next November every Saturday. So thank you for your enthusiasm and excitement, and for everyone else that's going to pop on right now. I know some of you might not know we're doing this, but I did my best to make some announcements, and let me just do a couple housekeeping kind of things until other people show up. And I know that probably the attendance is not going to be what it typically is due to the fact that we're just starting back up again and some people might not know. So I'm working through a little bit of a chest congestion. So my name is Parham. I do this live stream each and every single Saturday from 9:15 Pacific Standard Time until 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's about 45 minutes, give or take. What do we cover here? It's pretty much a good channel for anyone who firsthand or secondhand has experienced any type of pain as a result of addictions, mental illness, trauma, and grief and loss. So it's not just about drugs and alcohol. It's not just about, that whole world. It's about encompassing all different types of pain that we endure as a result of those things. Some things about myself is I do have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I am a licensed advanced alcohol and drug counselor. I know it's weird to say that, but I am in recovery myself. June 13th of 2008 is the day, the time, the era that I decided to change my life around and live from one version to another version. Thank you. I'm here for the wisdom, Marilyn and Mom and Dad. Told you guys I'll be back, and them at June too. Ooh, look at that. Full house. I'll give you guys a call after this to check in. And then Jada June, always a pleasure. Thank you for your support all these years. Not just of me, of my mother as well. So what do we do on this talk? So it's interactive. As you can see, I could put up people's comments. If you have any questions about the topic, I could share them with you. But it's a nice community, and it's been growing, and we've been doing this for the past 4 years here. And for those of you who are locals, every Tuesday night from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in person at our facility, I do a in-person support group, which is wonderful. There's always about 20 people there. I mean, it's so good, and you're always welcome to it. It's always free of charge. Who would have thought? There's no sale, there's no upsell, there's no nothing. Kenny, I told you I'm back. Kenny and the crew, thank you for your kind words and support also, and I hope everyone over there at Pacific Sands is doing well. So pretty much I have a different topic each week, and the goal is to be able to add some value to your day, to your week, and all that kind of stuff. And, Mr. Jim's here too. Counselor Jim, for those of you who don't know. It's a different picture you got over there. It's okay, though. Jim's here. So what I'm going to do right now is just kind of get into it so you can kind of get a feel of what we do here and understand it a little bit. So today we're talking about some keys to recover. Now, if you're wondering what does it even mean to recover, I believe that all human beings, if you have lived a life on this planet called Earth, that there are possibilities and opportunities for you to recover in life. And here's why. Recovery has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. I want to just put that out there. To recover something means to regain something that has been lost, stolen, or destroyed. Lost, stolen, or destroyed. And what is that? It's our connection to ourselves. See, some of us have endured life experiences, challenges, painful ones, traumatic ones. And as a result of those, it snaps our connection to ourselves. It's like a survival mechanism. You kind of just like disconnect from yourself to be able to survive that. Especially with trauma, people that endure trauma and have PTSD, they understand this. It's a survival. Drugs and alcohol do the same thing too. Mental illness does the same thing too. Grief and loss can do the same thing too. So when we're talking about how do I recover, I'm not talking about drugs and alcohol. I'm talking about how do you regain something that's been lost, stolen, or destroyed, which is your connection to yourself. Today, I'm going to talk about some keys to that. And by the way, the beauty of the word recover and the definition I just provided is this. It means to regain something. See, we can only regain something that we've already had at one point. If I lose my keys and I don't know where my keys are, and I go search them and I recover my keys, I regain something I had before. It's not like I go find something that didn't exist. So recovery is not out there. It's reconnecting right here. Reconnecting to our truth, to ourselves, right here. So I'm going to give you some of my, and by the way, if you have any questions about this stuff, feel free to ask and I will gladly answer. So the first one that we have right here is when you are in the recovery process, when you're trying to recover, when you're trying to regain something that's been lost, stolen, or destroyed, you must remember why you started. Each and every single person watching this right now has a different reason for why they have started this thing called recovery. Some of you might be doing it because of an addiction problem. Some of you might be doing it because you experienced trauma in life. Some of you might be doing it because you struggled with untreated mental illness. Some of you might be doing it because of your loved ones, your spouse, your child, your grandkid. I don't know. But the reason that you start recovery is very unique and very personal to you. My reason might not be your reason, and your reason might not be the next person's reason. But the reason why you start this in anything that's transformative in life must be very clear and concrete inside your mind and inside your heart. Because life will put you in different directions. And if you lose sight of why you started, there is a chance that you will repeat it again. There's a chance you might repeat it again. I've been on the record saying why I started recovery was primarily for my family, specifically, I would say my mom. The impact that my addiction was having on her at my young early 20s was significant. It was taking a toll on her, and she was already battling her own health stuff. My dad was frustrated. My brother was terrified. It's like I did it for other people. It took me a while to come around and realize that, hey, even though I started it for them, I'm doing it for me. And I also did it because I was at a point in life at 25 years old that certain friends that I cared for dearly were starting to advance and graduate from school. I remember my best friend at the time, Jacob, we were like two peas in a pod. And I remember when I was 23 years old, and I was really struggling at 23, with alcoholism was seriously had a chokehold on me. I remember driving down and going to San Diego to his college graduation. And I dropped out of school a few years before that. And I couldn't, and it was just so painful to watch. I was happy for him, and I was happy for his father, and I was happy for his family. But it was just so painful to see, what the hell happened? Then I got buddies buying condos, and I'm, broke. I just couldn't understand it. So there's all these reasons why I had, but you must have a reason that's compelling enough that when the emotions of life kick in, that you still stay on the recovery path. It can't be something surface level, because if it's surface level, anything that's going to come across your way will throw you off that path. Anything. So remember why you started. And if you don't have a reason why you started, I strongly urge you and suggest you and recommend that you find some reasons that are important. You find some reasons that are important. Yep, this is it. This is perfect, Jim. Thank you for Jim. Anytime you want to throw in, I mean, we're about 6-7 weeks out of practice here, but you're always a good sidekick to these things. So, Jim went through something called drug court, which is a diversion program, which allows people, and this is like 20 years ago. So it's not like I'm saying Jim just did this right now, but it's a program that allows people who have substance abuse issues. And they also have it for mental illness now, by the way, people that are, mentally ill that get caught up with the law, instead of sending them to prison, if they qualify and get accepted into a program called diversion mental health program, they can avoid jail by doing treatment. So Jim was able to do that. And it's a very hard program. I'm not even going to get into all the details right now. Very hard, but he did it for legal reasons, just to not be locked up like an animal behind bars. And later on, he started to get curious. He started to see, hey, my life's getting a little bit better as a result of what I'm doing. My life is getting a little better as a result of who I'm hanging out with and associating with. My life is getting better because of the opportunities that are granted to me as a result of this program and programs like it out there. And before you knew it, he's on this journey. Jim, I'm going to break a little confidentiality. I know I have permission. Jim, at some point in his adulthood, and he had like a professional career too. This guy, he worked at big manufacturing companies, big ones. But at some point in his life, he was strung out, no teeth in his mouth, homeless underneath a bridge, the sign guy, watching people drive by and watching convertibles drive by and this and that and say, man, what a nice car that guy has over there. And, all these years later, as a result of his commitment and being a professional counselor, I call him a very professional counselor and a clinician. A few years ago, he got himself a little nice, convertible BMW. He puts the top down. He drives down the streets, and he goes to the gas station. He parks. People come up to him and say, man, that's a sweet car. Can I take a picture of it? Wow. Remember why he started. I got goosebumps sharing that story, Jim. How cool is that? Man, that's the power of these things. So the next one we have here is early expectations. And by the way, this is an acronym system. So R, remember why you started. E, early expectations. So it just goes through recover, right? This is important for families that are watching this right now, because family members, they have this weird kind of skewed expectation. And I'm saying this as a marriage and family therapist, right? That's been working in the field for almost 15 years. I'm 15 and a half years sober, but the first few months, obviously I wasn't working in the field. I started early though, but they got this weird expectation that like, hey, when my loved one goes into recovery, then everything's going to be okay. Like, first of all, where did that expectation even come from? Right? Like, where did you come to that conclusion that as soon as someone starts the recovery process, then everything's going to be okay? And I'm going to tell you the truth. And this is one of those, the truth pills that you might not want to swallow. The only thing that gets better in the early stages, when you stop the use of drugs and alcohol, is the problems related to drugs and alcohol go away. Everything else, the lack of communication, the lack of boundaries, lack of trust, the trauma, grief and loss, the pain of life, the tormented relationships, everything else that was already there is still there. Like, that recovery and like treatment and stuff doesn't fix all that in the 30, 60, 90 days. Nothing in life will. If someone told you they could fix that fast, they're lying to you. How could you go years and years, decades of living a certain way, stop using drugs, and then all of a sudden everything's good? If anything, it gets worse before it gets better. You want to know why? Because if your loved one uses substances, they use it to handle all of those emotions and to handle all of those experiences. And sometimes it can be with like workaholism, right? Someone can work their way through all that. But here's the thing, when you stop doing it, when you stop working or you stop using substances, everything that's inside of you starts to come out now. So it gets a little bit uglier before it gets better. So please shave the early expectations. Family members sometimes say like, hey, he's not using drugs anymore. I don't know why he doesn't talk to us. He never reaches out. I don't think him not reaching out had anything to do with the drugs. It's like there's a communication problem here. There's a distance amongst family members here. There is a no history of relationship here outside the last name that you share. How is that going to get better when someone stops using drugs? But can it? Absolutely. Will it? I believe so. That's why I do these talks, because I've seen it countless times, thousands of times. But you got to shave those early expectations in the recovery process. Okay. The next one I got here is to care for your recovery. So each one of you, like I said, has a very unique reason of why you're in the recovery process. Okay, very unique reason. I don't know what yours is, but I'm sure you got one. And you must care for your recovery. And here's the main reason why. Because if you don't, nobody else will. And you might be saying, what do you mean by that? Nobody's going to care about my recovery. Well, let's give an example of myself, who is someone that hopefully this group at least considers someone that is, compassionate and caring and empathic and loving and committed, right? Let's just use me. So let's say right now, if you ask me questions or I provide feedback or I'm talking about recovery, I genuinely care about you and your journey in this moment. Okay. And that's the truth. I do. So if we get off of this call or this live stream and I go off, here's exactly what's going to happen after this. Oh, let me say good morning here. Ryan, aka Hamid Khosravi, the Cabo florist, and his beautiful wife Ale. There they are. He's my cousin. He's him and his sister. They've been doing a really good job. Roxanne, she might pop up here, but they did do a really good job in the past 10 months of routinely checking in on me. Pretty much Hamid does it every day just to say what's up. And ever since my brother passed away, he's done a really cool job. So it means a lot, cuz I told you I'll be back. I'm back. But this is what happens. I'm going to tell you guys this. So I care about you. I care about your story. I care about, why you're here, and I care about being able to help you. But this is exactly what's going to happen after I get off this call today. Probably call my mom and dad, ask them how it was. My dad will tell me something was wrong with the video or the quality was off. My mom will tell me I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they'll both cheer me on. And then I'll probably go take the puppy over there who's sleeping very funny on a little quick walk. Make sure he goes to the bathroom. And then we got a big tidal wave coming here in the next few days, next week of rain, which means I can't play pickleball. So today's the only day that it's going to be good weather. So I'm going to go play until my knees don't work anymore. And then I'm going to come home, eat some food, get ready for the next week and build some stuff. And long story short, when I do all of that, guess who and what I am not thinking about? And I say this with all sincerity, all the love in the world. I do not care or think consciously of you and what you're doing and what's going on in your life. That's the truth. I do that. Everybody else does that. So guess what? If you don't care about your recovery, then who will? And what is recovery? If you don't care to regain something that's been lost, stolen, or destroyed. And by the way, some of you might have lost that connection for things that weren't your fault. You might have been a child. You might have been a young adult. You might have been put in bad situations and it disconnected you from yourself. It wasn't your fault. But if you don't care to regain something that's been lost, stolen, or destroyed, nobody else will. So please care for your recovery. It's your life. You only get one of them. Whether it was done to you or you did it to yourself and you got disconnected, the time is now to care for your recovery and to regain it. You deserve it. And by the way, why is recovery even important? Why are we doing an entire talk on this topic called recovery? To recover. Why? Because only when you are connected to yourself are you able to do the things you want to do. Are you able to be the person you want to be? Are you able to accomplish the things you want to accomplish and not feel like you're always operating from a void, a hole, inadequacy, fear, to gain abundance and not live in scarcity? Whew. Care for your recovery, my friends. I don't know how else to tell you. I really don't. Expectations can kill your peace and serenity. Absolutely. I mean, our serenity, this is what is this? The 12 and 12 101. Our serenity and our expectations are a zero sum. So the higher your expectations are, the lower your level of serenity. Serenity, by the way, means soundness of mind. Like sanity, soundness of mind, peace, calm, content. And the higher your serenity is, the lower your expectations are. you know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to have some expectations of myself, of like things I need to be doing and this and that, but expectations of others, man, dangerous stuff. Oh, Bita John, you're welcome. Missed you guys too. Happy to be here. So the next one right here is to be open-minded. I've done a whole talk. So a lot of these topics I'm talking about, they all break down into further talks over the course of the year. But open-minded is something that's pretty important. The best analogy I have to show is if I have a closed mind, okay? So if my mind is closed and you or the environment wants to feed me or give me something that can help my life. Unfortunately, the hand, when it's closed, the mind, when it's closed, does not allow me to take that information. It just falls off. But when I have an open mind and you share information and put wisdom and put knowledge and put ideas in my mind, I can close it and take it with me. And that's how life changes. When you come into any talk, do you come in with an open or closed mind? When you go into any room, do you go in with an open or closed mind? When you have a deep conversation with somebody about things that you feel that they did wrong or things that you're pissed off about, do you go in with an open or closed mind? See, open-mindedness is the key to being able to regain what you've lost, because sometimes you might have to look in places that you're not looking. Sometimes you might need to hear things in which you are not hearing. Sometimes you might need to see things in which you are not seeing. And sometimes you might need to feel things that you're not feeling. And the only way to hear, see, feel things in which you are not is by opening your mind to seeing the possibilities that exist. Open-mindedness, man, it's a beautiful thing. A lot of people have a fear of an open mind. It's safer to keep their mind closed and to live within their limitations, self-imposed limitations of self and who and what they think they are. I don't know what it's going to take. Sometimes pain causes us to open our mind. Sometimes pain causes us to open our mind because, what is it? The people start to change when the pain of staying the same becomes too great. When the pain of staying the same becomes too great. I don't wish that upon anybody. But there is a beautiful possibility that exists within pain. Now, psychological, emotional pain, man, it's all the same. When you are in enough pain, the motivation to change comes in. When your back's against the wall, when you're desperate. That's why they call it the gift of desperation. I mean, how ironic or how weird or oxymoron is it to call it the gift of desperation? Why is desperation a gift? Because inside that gift, so let's just call it the gift of desperation. Imagine a box, little pretty bow on it. The gift of desperation. You open it up, and guess what's inside that gift of desperation? There's a key. There's a key. And that key is called the key of willingness. People become willing to do the things that they aren't doing in life when they become desperate enough to do so. I think the big difference between people who are really successful and those who aren't are people who can pick up the key of willingness even when they're not desperate. Even when things are going well, they continue to do the things that they did when they were desperate. Right? It's a powerful thing. So the next one that we have here, there's only a few left. So recover. The V is VIP. So what does that mean? Well, you are the most important person in your recovery. I know for some of you codependents, you're like, nope, my kids are the most important. As long as my kids are okay, then I'm going to be okay. As long as my spouse is okay, I'm okay. I live for them. I breathe for them. I don't know. It sounds dramatic. It's not reality. The only way you're going to be okay is if you're okay. The only way you're going to be able to take care of those who you love is if you take care of yourself. It's not like some weird Roman sacrifice that like, oh, as long as my child is happy, then I am happy. Like, really? Like, what happened before you had a kid? Before you had a child? This is a serious question. I'm completely pivoting right now because that when people say those kind of things, it makes me sad and it makes me curious. Okay. So let's say there's a super codependent mom or dad and says, as long as my child or my son, my daughter, whatever, is happy, then I'm happy. I can sleep well at night. Okay, fair enough. What did you do and what brought you happiness and joy before your child existed? Like, if your happiness is contingent on the happiness of another person that's been in your life way less than half of your life, it really makes me curious to know what you did prior to that. Because your happiness, my friends, must be contingent on your happiness, on your own mental health and well-being. Now, yes, if my mom or dad are happy or they're doing well, does that make me happy? Absolutely. If your loved one is doing great, should that make you happy? Yes. But it's not contingent on it. It's not a one for one. It's not this is the only way I'm happy. That's highly, highly, highly dysfunctional for people that believe those kind of things. Because it puts you in a very vulnerable state. Because if they go through a little journey of their own and they kind of get dysregulated and they go off the path, that means you're going off the path too. And then what happens to all of your life responsibilities, your priorities, your health? Nothing. I mean, I can't speak and, I can't give any, but there's a family member that comes to one of my groups. And for months and months, I mean, she looked like she was just seriously depressed because her mood is connected to her kid. And for the past few weeks, she's kind of like investing in herself and just looked like a different human being, smiled, and like her eyes had light. And I'm sitting there wondering, like, man, if only she saw the version of herself before, that her mood was contingent on that. So the VIP means that you are the most important person in your recovery. And by the way, the more you invest in yourself, the more you're actually going to be able to be there for your loved one if and when they need it. So many of you have put the needs of others above yourselves for so long. And when will you stop? I know there's like this martyr, like honor, humility thing of like, I'm just going to put others above me and this and that. But come on, put yourself first. If you don't want to do it forever, just how about this? For the first year of your recovery, put yourself first and be selfish. See, as soon as I say selfish, people say, well, selfish is not good. Well, that means you're coming up with some random definition of what selfish means, of like a kid that has toys and doesn't want to share them. Like we're talking higher level here. Be selfish. Selfish about the fact that you're trying to regain something that's been lost, stolen, or destroyed. Like imagine the most valuable thing in your life just got lost. Would you just sit back and start helping other people out? No, man, you're going to start looking for it. Imagine you have like a $20,000 piece of jewelry that just got lost. And your kid says, hey, can you help me with something? You're like, no, I have to find this. I need to find this. I'll help you when I'm done. Now, here's the thing. You've lost connection to yourself. And instead of looking for it, you go help other people look for theirs. And guess what? Subconsciously, people do that because it keeps them away from doing their own work. It's easier to go help over there because then I don't have to look over here. So take that, be that as you may, I don't know what you got out of that one, but it was heavy. So the next one that we have here is effort. If recovery feels like it's in the early stages, okay? Because like where people like myself and Jim are right now when it comes to recovery, it's like autopilot. It's a way of life, almost effortless. Not all times. I went through crisis last year. There was times that it required effort after grief and after losing someone you love. But for the most part, most days, most years, everything I do right now is just a way of life. It's a lifestyle. But in the beginning stages, everything took a significant amount of effort. So if you are, if you're saying that you are in recovery, right? You're saying that you're in recovery right now, and you're in early recovery. So you just started this thing. And if it feels like everything's effortless, you're probably just like counting days. You're not actually doing the work, because the work is tedious. The work is deep. The work is oftentimes uncomfortable, is oftentimes overwhelming, because you start to look at things that you have avoided for a long time. You start to go to places that you're brand new. You start to experience emotions oftentimes for the first time. It's not easy changing your lifestyle. It's not easy changing the way you live. It's not easy changing how you engage and interact with the environment. So if it all comes easy to you, all you're doing is just kind of chilling. Because imagine if you lost something, right? Let's just say you lost the keys inside of like one of those places that they have all the trash. The little machinery comes and dump trash in them and this and that, like a big trash, landmine or whatever it is. And someone says, yo, you got to go find your keys. You can't just walk there and just go look for them. You got to get dirty. You got to get grimy. You got to hunt. You got to lift things. You got to move things. It's hard. To regain the connection that you've lost with yourself is hard. If like trauma made you lose your connection, if a traumatic experience, if abuse made you lose it, you can't just say, okay, I'm in recovery from my trauma now and I'm going to be okay. No, man, you got to go do the work. And I know the thought of that is overwhelming, but so is living a life disconnected from self. That's where all the anxiety disorders, depression disorders, substance abuse, people pleasing, all the negative traits that you're trying to work on, all happens because you're disconnected from yourself. So either that, stay disconnected, or endure the pain and give the effort to reconnect. Choice is yours. The very last one that I have here is my favorite one. I'll probably talk about a little bit longer. It says to rewrite your story. So I will tell you all this right now, straight up. You are not who your past tells you that you are. You are not your addiction. You are not your loved one's addiction. You are not your mental illness. You are not your loved one's mental illness. You are not your trauma or the trauma of others. You are not grief and loss. You are anything and everything that is possible to become the moment that you choose to rewrite your story. Everything in life is nothing but chapters of a freaking book. Everything in life is just chapters, man. And here's what I mean. You ready for this? So, rewrite your story, right? On March 25th of this year, there's an 8-week course starting at Saddleback Community College. Okay. I will be teaching a class every Thursday from 9 to 11:50. It's on Zoom, but it's live. I just get my foot in the door. It's my first college class I've ever taught. And I started, it's called HS 177, Family Dynamics. Okay. Now, I want to rewind the tape back to when I'm 40 years old right now. So I want to rewind it back to when I was, 20 years old. I made it to college, right? And eventually from college, I dropped out, kicked out, academic probation. So I was a college dropout. Okay, I want you to catch that real quick. I was a college dropout. And I got lost. And I was using drugs and alcohol at copious amounts. Okay. So if you would have asked me at the age of 21 or 21 years old, I would have said I'm a college dropout that's addicted to drugs. Okay. That's who I was. And I'm telling you to rewrite your story because check this out. The same community college that I went to then and there is the same community college that I am a professor at now, starting in March. We are anything and everything we choose to become. There is no, see, that was just a chapter. But if you believe the chapters of your life is all you ever will be, then you will never become anything else. You will never become anything else. And the beauty of this whole freaking thing is the fact that we can rewrite our stories. I just shared with you guys a little bit earlier, right? I shared a little bit earlier about Jim, homeless, under the bridge, looking at convertibles to drive by. 15 years later, he's driving a convertible. 2 people in this moment telling you the possibility of human transformation. Now, if you don't believe it exists for yourself or your loved ones, that's not anything besides a mindset problem and operating out of fear. So just know that you can rewrite your story. And by the way, our stories, right? Our stories can change day to day. If you had a bad day yesterday, rewrite the story. Have a good day today. Rewriting our story is powerful, but only if you choose not to believe the previous versions are the only version to go. It's a powerful thing. And there's another guy right there. Oh, what's up? What up, Tyler? It's okay. We're almost done here, but it's all good. You can watch it and rewind. And then Jerry, which is Julian, you're not what you've become. You're anything you want to from this point going forward. And this is another person too, you know. Julian was, I mean, he holds down our evening program on his own. We're starting a mental health program that's going to go simultaneously with Julian, so he'll finally get some support. But this is a guy that was like, if you had to bet on him when he was like 20 years old, you'd probably bet he'd be in prison right now. And I'm not even just saying that in a derogatory way. I love Julian, and he's been working side by side with me for 7 years. But if you would have seen him and how he lived his life when he was that age, it would be safe to say this kid's not going to make it anymore and he's going to be in prison. And right now he's like a full-blown drug and alcohol counselor, managing caseloads of like 12, 15 people, a family man, children, spouse, like struggles sometimes, but doing the best he can in an honorable way. And it's like, I don't know what it's going to take for people to realize that you are not your story. You are not your past. You're anything and everything you want to be. And the only way you can rewrite your story, by the way, is when you regain connection to yourself. The author of your story has to come from a place of connection that is achieved through the recovery process. You can't rewrite the story when you're lost. You can't rewrite the story when you're disconnected. It's impossible. So all that being said, feels good to be back. And I look forward to continuing to do this. By the way, I always say this, nobody really takes me up on it. If there's any specific topics you want or things that you want me to expand on, just write them in the comments and I'll make talks on them. I have no problem like sitting down and writing a talk for these things. So feel free to do so. I love and appreciate all of you. I'll see you back next week. Same time, same place. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye, everyone.